what the Church of Scientology is so afraid of.
This is SPTV.
Welcome back to the Degraded Daughters of Dianetics. Today we're joined by my awesome old friend who I have not spoken to in a very long time. We're so excited to welcome her. Welcome, Katherine.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. This is so funny, like how we reconnected, because I saw you were commenting on my stuff. And then I was like, wait, I think when you started posting video clips, I'm like, I know her. That was really cool. So it's good to be on here. Thank you.
Thanks for being on with us. And you just wrote a book, which is kind of how I saw you. And because I don't know you personally, I saw you doing some cool interviews. And then I was like, I want to read this book. This seems like a really good read. And everybody else that read it said it was great. And so we were talking about getting it, but busy scheduling. We haven't gotten it yet. But this worked out even better because now we're talking to you about it before we read it so we can get some cool insight.
Yeah, I love it. I got the book here. I could maybe, if it comes up, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I could read you a quick
reference
page
it.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to like jump in sometimes if I feel the urge, I guess. But yeah.
That's so awesome. So we had an idea. Actually, it was Katherine's idea, and I love it because we do this with my group of girlfriends, a book club, because Alicia and I have not read it yet, and she sent it. And we thought it would be fun to interview Katherine beforehand, before reading it, so we could catch up a little bit and hear about, what's going on in her life now, get the viewers interested, and then we thought we could have a book club and meet up about a month from now and do a live.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah, it'll be so fun. And then that way viewers can ask questions too. So that'll be cool.
And that's the cool part that I love about this idea, because I wrote this book and we were talking about like, how did I even come up with this? I had always, so for your viewers and listeners, like, maybe they don't know, but there was ranches for kids of parents who were in the Sea Org. The Sea Org is like the people who work for the church, and it's basically dedicated our lives. They're like, you guys are all chose your body, and now you're all going to be Sea Org members. Like, this is just what I grew up with. And I wanted to, Jenna Miscavige was actually, she wrote a book. It's really good, but it's about the Int Ranch, but not really, because she's David Miscavige's niece. So she was treated very differently, and not in a good way, actually, in a lot of ways, because she actually had way more attention. But then she had some other thing, like she just lived a very different life, which was also very dramatic. And I would recommend that book as well. Could be the next book club to compare.
I read that one. It was good.
Yeah. And then the Pack Ranch, though, is a different ranch. It's for like the lower orgs, which means like lower in the church. And all of those kids went to what's called the Pack Ranch. And I wanted to capture that time. And when I was growing up, I was kind of aware, and I was journaling and stuff. I'm like, this is not normal. Like because I would watch movies and read books. So I was kind of like cataloging it and thinking like, maybe one day I'll write a story about this. And then I didn't, but then once I started putting it down, it just felt good to get rid of all that like baggage. But I was still like, I can never write this. My parents are in the Sea Org. Like, I don't want to lose my parents. And they are still in the Sea Org, and my sister, my oldest sister. So, but then they decided to disconnect from me. Oh, surprise, surprise. Even though I did nothing wrong. Two of my friends were on Leah Remini's show, The Aftermath. And because I knew them, and they're like my close friends, they were in my wedding. That's how close we were. They were like, how come you didn't report them? And because of that, they disconnected from me, and they'd already met my kids. Like, they were like involved in my life. So once that happened, Scientology basically was like giving me permission to write this book, because they just took the one thing that was stopping me from writing a story. It's just a story of that time. And it's like, well, now that you took away my family, I'm going to write this story. So that's how it came to be.
Yeah, I really relate to like keeping a silent note in your head of like, this is not normal. And I think I'm going to have to tell this story one day because I'm the only one witnessing this craziness going down. And you writing this book about the pack ranch, that's what it was, right? The pack ranch.
Yeah, the pack ranch.
I also remember being at Big Blue at the daycare, and I have friends who were at that the Blue building next door between the tarp, right? Like, were you there also?
Yeah.
Oh my
I have a
gosh.
whole chapter on it. We're like trying to like yell at our parents across the street, like between the tarp, because we're just like we were very like unruly. So the first chapter is the ATA. And that's what that place was called.
Yeah.
And that's it starts when I'm 6 years old. And you get a total picture. When you read this book, it's done from the viewpoint of when I'm 6. So there's no like recrimination when I'm looking back or anger. It's just like, what is a child? What is it like for me as a child growing up in this? So yeah, I think people are just, the feedback I get is that they get upset for me because I'm not getting upset like in the book.
But you don't know any different.
I don't know any better. So then they're like, oh my gosh, but it's just how I wanted to write from how I felt at that time so that you could really, the reader can get a real picture of how indoctrination is and how much you believe in L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology or don't believe in it, so for me, it's like, I believe in it because it's all I know. And what happens to get me from there to now. And the book covers just till the end of the Sea Org. There's supposed to be a second book because I accidentally wrote 150,000 words. So, and I had to get it down to one book. And that was just leaving the Sea Org. And I got it down to 90,000 words, which is this book. So the second book will be once you go into the real world. So what's that like? Because there's a journey to just get out of the Sea Org. And then there's a second journey that has to happen to leave Scientology itself, which is like in your brain. So
layers.
I remember you guys, I personally already felt horrible for you as like a 6 or 7 year old because, and I've talked about this with a other friend who was there behind the tarp. I remember you guys were not allowed to watch television and we would have it on and
oh my gosh,
they would literally be like, don't talk to
Were
those
you in
kids.
the daycare where we would look?
Yes.
So we would look because we were in the backyard.
And
we
they
would
were
like
also
look over the fence.
100%. And there were also, remember the alley back there? And like somehow you guys knew all the homeless people, but we weren't allowed to talk to them. And then they were like, don't talk to those kids over there. They're bad. I was like, but they're Scientologist kids, right? And I never understood that. And then as an adult looking back, I just was like, that is just the worst thing possible. And I'm just so glad that you're using your voice and recording what really went on because it was just child neglect and it's not okay. So thank you for doing that and sharing this with the world.
It's brave of you and it's so needed because how many of us have these memories that don't really make sense and you try to sit there and make sense of them and it's like, that just doesn't, no, they wouldn't do that. And then you think about it, you talk to other people and you're like, oh no, they did. That did happen. That was a thing. Okay. Like I would never do it. And I don't know where the idea came from that this was okay, but there was a lot of very strange environments in which we were raised in as kids for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was interesting because watching both of your interviews, I was like, yeah, you weren't as neglected. You had parents, but in a lot of ways you were because they were just not like you were not a priority to them. It wasn't like, this is what do you want to do? What are your interests? What are your passions? So it was really surprising to hear that because I always, like you're saying, Vanessa, like when I would hang out with all of the Scientologists in LA, they had families and I was jealous. They had a house. They had somebody who would give them money. But I didn't realize that for a lot of these Scientology families, probably there was all this pressure to be on course, to be good, report on anybody who's bad, including your best friends or your parents or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, like all of that. So I think it'll be interesting for you too when you read my book and for any other viewers. If they were Scientologists or anyone who wasn't a Scientologist, like what they get out of it, what are their questions? Because that's, I'm always interested to hear it. Like whenever I read the reviews on Amazon, it's like some people have read many Scientology books and some people have read none. And I love to hear it all and to talk about it. And like, yeah, it's just, I'm excited to do this book club.
We're so excited.
fun.
We're so excited too. I remember, first of all, hanging out with you in LA and being very upset about how the group of kids who were basically born into the Sea Org or went at a very young age because their parents were Sea Org members, right?
Yeah.
Were you, what age did you go? 6?
So my parents, I was literally born in the Sea Org. So you know the
Okay.
building that has like the green Scientology sign? It's called the HI, and it's like where they used to do Winter Wonderland and stuff.
Yeah.
I was born in one of those apartments.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like literally born in a Sea Org building. And so all I knew was the Sea Org. And like from my earliest memories, I start the book from when I'm in a dorm. So I don't even live with my parents. I'm 6 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first learned about child development, I had the first of all, I had the tendency of always comparing my trauma. And I'm always reminding Alicia that, like, look, we're doing a disservice if we're not speaking because we think that other people had worse trauma or times or abuse or neglect. But learning about child development, I learned that there's such a thing as emotional neglect. And I saw you all being not only emotionally neglected, but physically neglected. And I think that we had felt like, well, we weren't like beaten or, so like maybe, I don't know, we have a tendency to all compare trauma, but it's really not helpful at all.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you saying that you were able to see our, what it's like as a public viewpoint too, because I always just was like, I don't even want to talk because my story is nothing compared to these people who really grew up with no parents because your parents were too busy saving the world. It was a horrible thing, all the stories I heard. So we cannot wait to read this.
Yeah. And I think that it'll be interesting because I actually was scared to write in a way to put out my book because something about me, it's just natural, innate. It's like since I was a child, I always look on the positive side. I'm an optimist. So my book is very optimistic. It's like, and it'll be interesting to see what people think. So there are like moments where you're laughing with me because I think something's funny. Like, it's not just like drudgery, like horrible labor. And like, it's like, you're going to learn about my friends and like the drama of like, I want that boyfriend. And he's on the EPF. Maybe I'll join the EPF.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The things totally that we have.
What a reason.
Because when you're a teenager, these are your priorities. And I was like, oh my gosh, people are going to hate it because I'm not just attacking Scientology.
No, I actually like it because of that.
Yeah. The point was to show what it was like as a teenager and where are my priorities. My priority is to have fun and to get a boyfriend. And is the Sea Org helping me with this? And it's like,
well, but meanwhile, the readers did you get married though? Because most of my friends who joined at 11, 12 got married at like 13 or 14. Were you married?
Yeah. No. I never got married. Okay. And I had a little fling in the Sea Org. Not allowed, not like real fling, like kissing only. But but that was still like, if you're not dating, that's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But you while you're following on my teenage young life journey, you're getting all of the Scientology information and you're seeing all the neglect I'm going through where I don't realize it. I'm being neglected and the horror, like the stuff I have to do. Like they tell me to go clean out a trash compactor because I've been bad. And like, I have to climb in this trash compactor and scrub it, like things that are so like not okay and not allowed, and like how they're like, you're going in the Sea Org and I'm only 14 years old. And it's no, do you want to join the Sea Org? It's your time to join the Sea Org, And
and you were
it's
not
like
given, I mean,
friends.
It wasn't really an option because it was either way. You didn't have family if you didn't go. What are you going to be, a 14-year-old alone? And what was that option, by the way? What was did some people just leave and become adults?
Eventually, so like, it's a great question. There would be some cadets that would eventually like kind of just disappear. Remember, you can't, I don't know if you know this, but you're not allowed to talk about leaving. So if you want to leave, you can't tell your friends about it. Yeah, it's a secret. So like sometimes like people would just disappear and you're like, oh, they're not here anymore. But it was fairly rare and few and far between. And then
that's not like mind control or manipulative at all. It's totally
it's totally is.
Normal. Yeah.
Normal.
And it's like the thought police, right? Like
yeah.
And you'll see that in my book too. You'll see me self-monitor my thoughts and tell me to push these thoughts away.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping that I really communicate to like the readers is like, I'm a normal child, but I'm dealing with indoctrination, and how does a child deal with that, and what do they do? And some kids unfortunately just follow the line and they just do it. Most kids, because they don't know any better, and it's sad. And then all the rebels that I was friends with ended up leaving the CR. Because we didn't just follow the rules. Like we were always questioning things. So it's a good quality to have. And like any young readers who read this, because it is marked like a 13-year-old could read a 14-year-old. Like I hope that they could be like, oh, like it's okay to question things. It's okay to ask. And people shouldn't shut me down for asking questions. Like you should always be able to have a dialogue. And obviously we were not allowed to have dialogues, in the CR.
I'm just so proud of you because you've done the work, and it's really hard, clearly by the way you're talking, like it's just hard to, like we were discussing in an interview we did recently, you have to understand what happened to us. Like we understand what happened, but we also have had to educate ourselves enough to learn about how that had an effect on our development. So I just find it so interesting that even though all of us are, I mean, you look like a beautiful, wonderful, totally happy woman, and like that makes me so happy because the environment that we were all put through, we're all still looking at the glass somewhat half full, right? Like we are kind of optimistic, and that's why we're able to be here talking about it and just trying to hopefully educate people about it. And the fact that you have been through so much, which we cannot wait to read all about, because you guys, this stuff is nuts. It's really nuts.
It's not nuts, but it was our normal. So that's why I'm so excited, because I'm like, it's from a kid's perspective.
So beautiful to see. Like, I'm so proud of you. And it's so cool to see that we were all able to maintain that piece of us.
Yeah. And it is interesting, like even though we all grew up differently, like even just seeing that we were kind of questioning things and like wondering about it. And that's what helped us leave it earlier,
Yeah.
But to get those parallels is so great. And like, I'm excited to share the story. I'm like so excited that my friends who I like grew up with loved it. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Cause like that means so much to me. And like, they're like, you captured our world. Like you've like, one of my friends was like, you validated it for me, which was really cool. Like to have that experience, because there are so many stories to be told. And I love that so many people are speaking out about what they've gone through in Scientology. Because the more the merrier, the more I feel protected, to be honest. I like it.
Same.
I'm like, good, more people speak out, because like I have friends who are saying, I want to write my story of the ranch. I'm like, yes, please do. We could have like sister books,
Yes.
Yeah. And I actually,
books.
Or brother books or whatever.
I love it.
But I think anybody who wants to tell their story should tell their story. It's whether it's in Scientology or any other event that you've gone through. It's great to have that platform, but I think especially because of how vicious the church can be about people who speak out, it's really cool to have this support of all of us, and like we all just want to like I think uplift each other, and like it's great safer, that it's there. Because I think 10 years ago, oh my gosh, it will be even more scarier to be talking out.
I was approached to go on the after. Well, I was sent Mike Grinder's number, and I called him and spoke with him, and I was just so terrified at the time. And I still had like some slight contact with my mom, even though my mind was exploding that it was coming on. I was so happy because I had watched everything else, and I've been reading Tony Ortega's blog every single day. So I was like, oh, this is so cool, but I was just too wimpy at the time. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I took a bit of time to do a lot of personal reflection and work, because
No,
it
I
might
don't.
have been
Yeah,
too
I
much
feel
for
like
me
you
right
know
then.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you did it too
Yeah.
early, and then you're just like traumatized.
Yeah.
Like do it when you're ready. I think
Yeah.
is the hopefully most people can do that, because it is hard. Like
Yeah.
I've had friends who've spoken out and they've had a really hard time, and they spoke out earlier than me. So
the disconnection, I think people live in denial because it supports their whole theory of life, but it's easy to think, and I've heard this from a lot of second gens, they say, oh, well, you know, my parents would never disconnect from me. I've heard that time and time again.
No, and I hope that about my parents. Yeah.
I thought the same, but you test it and then it happens, and you realize that everything was conditional, and it's really like
devastating,
mental breakdown inducing. It's really sad. And anybody going through disconnection, I just
so for anyone who watches this who's like, oh, but my parents won't, and they're just curious, and like my parents literally would come and visit me from the Sea Org and come on a week vacation to Minnesota, which is so unusual. But I would also like kind of do the, you got to play the game. I'll be like, it's bad PR if you don't come, because my husband's not a Scientologist. So they would always come.
I love that.
But I think they would have a great time, and they loved my kids. And I had a 3-year-old and baby twins, and they came when the babies were born, my twins, and so great. And my sister too. And then Leah Remini show happened, and my friends were on it, and just like that, boom, done. I'm just like, and it took me like, that was a dark winter. It was like, and in Minnesota, winter's long, so it's not helpful. But I did get a therapist, because I was like, I need to talk to someone about this. I need to process this.
A lot of us don't go to get mental health until we actually experience physical symptoms. Like I was vomiting all the time, and I was severely depressed. Like I couldn't get out of bed, and I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know that depression was an actual physical manifestation. And like, so it's really shocking when you're like, what's going on with my body? I thought I was like in charge of everything, and you're like vomiting. And it was because I felt trapped in my work environment. I had people coming to visit me every day, and I wasn't taught boundaries. I wasn't taught to say like, hey, leave me alone. You're ruining my day. I was just there like having a good calm cycle with them every day. Like these are the after effects that you really have to like work on.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of deliberate work and deep diving, and it's hard. And I get why so many people don't do it, because it's like ripping apart every bit of what you knew and questioning what you think, and is that my thought? That's always been something that I've done, especially since becoming a parent. That's been something that I've talked about a lot with my partner, who's not at all a Scientologist, which was perfect for me because I didn't want any of that. And so we talked so in depth before we had kids, because I was like, oh, I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's still weird stuff that pops up just like subconsciously, but it is so different to be a parent myself now. And my daughter is 14. She's the age I was when I was sent to Mojave. And it's so trippy to look at her and to be around her and to think I was out in the middle of nowhere.
And they just kidnapped you or whatever. I can't believe that when you're telling that. When they just drove you there, I'm like, what? It's so mean. You just wanted to go to school.
I know. So and it's so weird, because people are still like, where were you? And I'm like, just go with the fact I had a baby in 8th grade. That's probably better, like, to say.
Yeah, and I don't get that. Yeah, when you came back, you're just babysitting. I'm like, what? Like, it's just so weird to me.
No plans. Because
so
I guess 14 is just like, well, they could join the Sea Org, and, they could start doing Scientology stuff. It is so weird. And I don't know why I left. Like, I never got that answered. Maybe because this was moving, because Mojave moved a few times, and they were going to move to New Mexico. So maybe I left there because my parents didn't want to send me to a different state, because that was maybe what drew the line. I don't know. Probably just the fact that it was expensive, and I was getting worse. Instead like when I would come home. Instead of better, I wasn't wanting to be part of the group and play with Clay and be like sexually harassed during TRs and stuff.
We're seriously hoping more ranch kids and Mojave kids, or any kind of ranch experience. If you want to come,
very
speak out.
unique.
Yeah, because it's such a weird, horrible.
It's trippy to think about it now.
Experience.
I compartmentalized that and put that in the back of my head because it was just such a traumatic time, and it was such a pivotal time in in your child developing in that 14, and just to be in trouble for everything. I mean, I don't
Catherine
know.
knows all
If
about.
I was gonna say, I feel like it was probably the same. I haven't read the book, so I don't know, but I feel like, were you guys in trouble for everything? Like,
well, when I'm a teenager, from then on, once I'm like 11, 12, and I'm really like snarky and like backflash, backlash is talking back.
Is like a badass and always has been.
Beautiful.
I would say people considered me annoying at the ranch because I was not following the rules. I would not say they called me a badass.
Well, isn't that
but I was
ironic?
like,
that's on par though.
Yeah, for sure.
That's on par.
It's totally like, I'm proud of that now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I annoyed so many people.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I was mentioning the other day, people can commit serious crimes and their parents will go visit them in jail, right? But us being a little rebellious, I think that anybody who's a normal parent would be super proud to have 3 intelligent any of us as their daughter. And I've been told that by, women recently too. So it's challenging because disconnection hurts everybody. I feel that it hurts your parents. It hurts your children. It hurts my parents. They're sitting alone. It's not helping us. They're not happy.
Yeah.
Like it's a no-win for anybody.
Yeah. And it's so sad that they can't just have I mean, I don't even believe in Scientology itself and the religion or any of that, but just to get to just a little bit better yourself, just stop disconnecting and stop putting the church before families. Can we at least do that, please? Church of Scientology. It's so sad. I have so many cadet friends whose parents don't talk to them, and for the dumbest reasons as well. And it's never a good reason, really. You shouldn't. Your kid should always come first. You had that child. It's your responsibility.
You chose that.
We are talking, and literally as an adult chose it, not as a baby.
No, the adult. Because we chose that too.
Because apparently we chose our bodies. We chose to be
our families, right?
My friend who was a cadet said her mom was like, "You chose to be a cadet. You chose this body. This is your responsibility. Why did you choose it?" And it's like, come on, really? But
the
they didn't genuinely believe that.
So extreme.
Yeah, for sure. But having kids is definitely an eye opener because you're like. That's where where you really go, oh my gosh, this is so sad. I love my kids so much, and I each one is so individual. That's one thing. It's everybody's treated the same at the ranch. We're all just little soldiers going into the Sea Org. Whereas sign my kids, I'm like, oh, you really like theater, you really like sports, you really like science, and I try to sign them up for things that they like. About and try to have fun with them, or it's just so wild that
you're actually living with your kids, which is wild, which is good. It's not wild for other people, but for us it's wild because
and I love being a stay-at-home mom. It's so great, and being involved in going into the classroom and helping volunteer. These are the things that give me joy, and people go, stay-at-home mom sounds so boring. I'm like, I love it. It's the best. Also, I'm in a great spot though. They're all in school now. So actually it's a good time to release my book because I have time now, and I'm trying to record the Audible version of my book, but they're all in school.
So cool. I looked on Audible and I didn't see it, and that's actually the only reason I didn't listen to it yet or didn't read it. So I was looking for okay, good. Because I'm still gonna read the PDF, but I was not good at sitting still and reading. And I
know, and a lot of people love it, to listen to stuff when they go to work or while they're walking.
Too, so it's even more I get the picture right from you, which is what I love.
Yeah.
I have a professional question for you, Catherine, as an insider from the Pack Ranch. So for our listeners and viewers who don't know, when you have parents who are in the Sea Org and you're born in, as Catherine was, the parents are busy working all the time. They're raised by people who were not their parents, other Sea Org members, at an actual ranch. They spent years there, and then they're kind of given the option to join the Sea Org, but it's not really an option.
They're not given an option.
Yeah, they're told to this is your time to join the Sea Org. And that usually happens at about 14, I think, right? 13, 14.
13, 14, sometimes 12, 11.
Okay, that's so incredibly young. And I remember all this happening. And then you guys went into the Sea Org and started your quote unquote education. And you didn't really get real school. You got a couple hours, possibly a week, from someone who wasn't really a real teacher, that was just so they could fill a form or something like that. It was not anything that even, we got on the outside.
At the ranch or in the Sea Org?
No, at the ranch. Like
at
when
the
you
ranch,
were doing,
we had like a few hours a day.
Yeah. So you weren't even exposed to really able to get your outside education. It was all just there. And then these kids all joined the Sea Org and worked essentially as slaves, child slaves, for years as Sea Org members. And I would see them in their ridiculous outfits in Hollywood. They would meet with me. They would call me. I'd be on the phone. You'd be in the call center or whatever. And then, so they're also forced to do all this training during that time. And they're living at the church. They're not really making any money. Very, very tiny if they're lucky. They get no time off unless it's Sunday morning to do some laundry and get a haircut. So then they're released whenever they escape. Basically, they're not released. You got out. You figured your way out. And there was a time when there was an exodus of these people. We were all the same age. I was a public member, so we ended up coming across each other. You guys all were coming out, and we started meeting you guys. And I hated that it was you guys were the bad kids, which is ridiculous. But you guys did teach us a lot about alcohol. We were all wasted at the time, always partying because we didn't deal with our emotions. So we just smoked and drank. We didn't do anything else. And then they came out strapped with these debts. And the debts were from being child slaves. And it was absolutely ridiculous. They wanted them to pay back the courses they took to be able to do the jobs in the Sea Org that were written by L. Ron Hubbard. And it was something that I was so incredibly upset about. I used to talk about a lot with adults. Be how is this okay? They had no choice. They didn't even, and so that was something that really always upset me. And I'm just wondering, as someone who I know who's speaking out, I don't know anybody else from that time who has spoken out. And like you mentioned, it feels surreal kind of when it's we all were there, right? There were actually a lot of us, not a lot, but in LA, there was quite a bit we had a very extended crew. So why do you think that more people haven't spoken out that had similar experiences to you guys?
It's a great question. So yeah, the freeloader dive was ridiculous. And some of my friends, when they were 12 or 13, were put on what was called the TTC, which is Technical Training Corps. So they were training to be auditors, class 5 auditors, and some of them made it all the way up. So they had $50K in debt. It was ridiculous. So that was crazy. I was, again, not a great Sea Org member, so I didn't go on course. I would just blow. But I didn't, so
you were so smart.
You were smart. It was bad.
I would go hide in my parents' room and read a book. But anyway, I had a 5K debt though. And I was okay, I'll be in good standing and pay a $5 here and there. But I was mostly broke, living in LA and saving my money for alcohol, gas to get to work, and my rent. Those are my priorities.
Yeah.
Alcohol was third. Rent, gas to get to work, maybe groceries, which was cereal for breakfast, ramen for dinner. Yeah. Because I'm supporting myself at 17. All of us were. Yeah. No parents, no backup.
Did you have a GED? You had to get it, right?
I never got my GED because I didn't want to stop going to Saturday school. Because what got your GED, you didn't. The only day you went to school in the Sea Org was on Saturday, and that was fun. I was I don't want to stop doing this. Plus, I didn't have any math training at all. I didn't. I think I had 6th grade math education, so I never got that. And then later on, when I went to public high school, was in for a rude awakening about my education. But yeah. So regarding my friends speaking out, so I do have a few who've gone on Leah Remini's show, and then I have my friend Clarissa, she won't mind if I say her name. She has spoken on Tony Ortega's website and like a few other interviews, and because her mom disconnected for a really dumb reason as well. She was the one, her mom was like, you chose this baby or you chose this body.
Yeah.
And like a few others, but yeah, most of us are silent out of fear. I know. So there was about 200 cadets, I would say, I'm totally guessing, like 100 left the Sea Org, and I bet about 25 are still actual Scientologists, and I would say 75 are not.
Okay.
But that of those 75, I would say 25 are fully out and like looking stuff up, maybe a little more. And then the other 25 are just don't want to think about it anymore. And they've shoved it off to the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, but
Especially
I do know what you mean. That's why I'm so interested in your insight as someone who like studies what, you know, like this kind of thing. I'm just so fascinated because it's such a dark thing. I think they're just not, they kind of compartmentalize it and then move on, and maybe like not to be armchair diagnosing, but it's easy to live in denial, and it's easy to like not look at it and just be like, oh yeah, like the calm course was helpful for me, and like it's kind of, it trips me out. So I'm just like, I hope that people see you and then realize it's okay.
Yeah, I hope so too. And like, I do think it does help to see like a cadet actually out there and not just a Scientologist. So maybe, I mean, like I said, I had a couple of cadets that I have always been friends with, but we don't live, I'm in Minnesota now. But they like DM me, and then we ended up having like 2-hour conversations where it's like, they read the book. There's like, oh my gosh, like it's really captures that time. And they're getting inspired to want to tell their story. And I'm like, yes, like I will walk you through what to do. It's so easy. Like I self-published on Amazon. It's like, I mean, the project itself takes work, of course, writing a book or whatever they want to do. But to get it out there is easy. And you have support. We have people who will interview you. And like, I think that we will see, I actually already know, like my best friend might be having something come out soon. That's like on the DL. But yeah, like it's like, so I think more and more of us are going to start speaking out, and then I'm hoping that will start to like trickle into those cadets who have put up those walls, who aren't trying to see like, just to hopefully help them maybe like realize like it's okay to look and to read these things. It's not going to kill you.
No,
I have this like big fear, you know. Oh, sorry.
I have secret, you know, coaching sessions with their girlfriends sometimes to help them understand because they're like, I don't get it. Why are they like this? I'm like, well,
totally. And there's so much, I'm sure, like with relationships too, where they have like all these or Scientology ways of reacting to things. Like if their girlfriend's upset, they probably have a hard time being empathetic, you know, because like
and they want to understand too. And that's the thing. It's just hard to talk about, and it's such a complex topic.
It's so complex.
So you have to take a little bit of time and ask someone. So I don't mind answering questions like, well, this is how emotions are in there. So maybe this, and then they can be more helpful to their partner. But you talking about it, having this book, it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I really, really hope so. I think it will too. And like, and another big part too about those cadets who aren't speaking out is they have parents in the Sea Org, and they are scared that they will lose them. So there's so many reasons, and like the indoctrination growing up to not see anything negative, plus the fear of losing your parents, losing your job if you work for a Scientology company. So I lost like all these like social media friends, of course, when my book came out, which I expected, because literally they cannot be social media friends with me. They will get in trouble. Even though
I did too. Alicia, I think you did too. Yeah, we all lost it.
Yeah. And I was okay with that. That part doesn't bother me. It's more like the close friends that block me and don't even have a conversation, which happened 5 years ago, also during Leah Remini's show. It was like, I had a best friend who was in my wedding as well, and she was still a Scientologist. You know who she is, Vanessa? She like, you know, hung out with our mutual friend, stayed at her house, whatever. She just like, she actually tried to rat me out, or like did like a fake phone call to me about my two friends were on Leah Remini's show, and like pretend. I realized with her questions, like, I think OSA's with her, or like people who work for the Office of Special Affairs, or an ethics
Yeah.
officer.
Osa gave special questions to ask my mom too. I could tell by the way they were worded and stuff. So yeah. Oh my God.
She was so
that's
stilted,
horrible.
and she was
That's
like,
horrible.
"Were they paid to go on the show? Were they flown in?" I'm like, "Oh my God, this is not a genuine conversation."
Yeah.
Her
No.
trying to find out, and then she wrote a report on me, or they already knew about it, and then my parents disconnected. So she also has a part to play in that.
Yeah.
Like she knew. I'm like, you know what's gonna happen if you report this, and she's like,
Yeah.
oh well, we'll see. I'm like,
Yeah, I guess we will see.
Did she say
Yeah.
goodbye?
She was like, it was just like, okay, bye. And then like I texted her, she didn't respond, text her. And then I went on social media and she'd blocked me, and then like no way to have a conversation. Like she ended it, asked if we were still going to be talking.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what they like to do now. So they don't actually physically say we're disconnecting,
Yeah.
but they don't
So
have any communication, because that's what I've gotten from a few people. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's kind of strange that you don't talk to me at all, but then you don't say you disconnected, but you have no relationship with me whatsoever. Like, we know what you're doing. I just called you out for disconnection, and so you don't want to do it so that people
Well,
can
but
see.
they're just wimps, because I had a friend who was like, I was telling her, like someone who I've known most of my life, I was telling her what was going on as it was going down. And she's always been like, I'm a Scientologist, but I understand that you're not. She's tried to be very like respectful, because I've been complaining a long time. And like they know. And I was just toeing the line, to not lose close relationships or whatever. But we had kind of an agreement, like I won't complain and just talk shit, but like we can still be friends. So she thought everything that was happening with me and the disconnection was complete and utter rubbish. They always think that something's being misapplied or someone's handling it wrong.
There's somebody else who's just not
to
doing it right.
Yeah, they're gonna get to the bottom of it. So that was her whole angle. Like, okay. And then I remember talking to her sobbing after my mom disconnected from me in person. After she asked me the OSA checklist, I called this friend. I told her, and she was like, "This is not okay." And she really, maybe she was even crying with me. It was like definitely the worst time. And then I never heard from her again.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that so crazy?
Horrible.
Like she probably
just
genuinely felt bad, and then they actually realized like, wait, no, I have to disconnect. And then what do they do? That cognitive dissonance where they can actually somehow shut it off. Like I'm just like, how is that? I don't know.
Picking and choosing.
But the more it happens, the more it becomes uncomfortable to act differently than you really believe. And that's what drives people to leave. So honestly, her knowing I'm not a suppressive, you're definitely not a suppressive. You're somebody who I thought would never leave. I thought you were like super into the tech and stuff. Like I was surprised. I was like, Katherine Spallino. But
I was into the tech.
I did, even though I knew you were a rebel. But I like, how the ranch kids, like, I don't know. I just thought because of your family, maybe it was more like, because we never shared opinions on it, and that goes to show like how they control the communication. The fact that I thought you were like hardcore is like crazy, because that wasn't going on at all, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't even on course. I was just hanging out in LA. I did work at Delphi, which was like maybe that gives me some credibility in the upset department.
That is why I told okay.
And sometimes there'll be Delphi students at the same parties, because I was only like 17. I was like, like trying to hide, because I don't want to have to like know what they're up to. And I don't care if they were drinking and stuff, but I know that they would see me and be like, you're also underage.
Oh my God, this is all coming back to me now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. That was funny. I was a librarian at Delphi.
I was going to ask what grade you taught, but librarian.
Then I became a teacher, Form 3, so it was 3rd and 4th grade kind of mix. I don't know why they went by forms, maybe to sound English or fancy.
It was an English way.
Yeah, and I know that you went to Delphi for a little bit, right, Vanessa? It's like actually like a really good school, except for the word clearing part. Like they actually learn a lot.
Ethics department.
The ethics department would be a lot to be written up all the time.
After going to public university, I've definitely learned and become enraged at the things they did keep from us, like certain words that I just didn't learn, certain concepts like propaganda or like things like that were definitely kept. Like I do remember we couldn't use books that were like too new because they would usually have mention of psychology. So we were using like
so
really
they had
old
censored
textbooks.
education. I only taught 3rd and 4th grade, so I wouldn't know that part.
But I appreciate everyone's always complaining about how much textbooks cost these days, but I don't mind paying it because I appreciate current research after having that experience. I love when it's like in a reference to something that happened like very recently that it makes sense to us and they've already done research on it. I'm like eating it up, but we were learning stuff from the 70s and stuff, so it was
the approved books.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or it'd be like if a kid acts out at recess, they're like, you need to word clear them. I'm like, or they just really just got angry because they're a child. And they wanted to win that soccer game. It's like, come on. Yeah. It was so annoying. Especially, and I had a couple celebrity kids in my class, and it was just like every day I'd have to write a special report about them and like make sure anything bad happened, word clear them. And like I would just do like fake word clearing on them. I'm like, just really, do you really know that word? Why don't you just give me a sentence? We'll call it a day. Like I would totally like just try to get them out the door back with their
You were the word clearer you always wished for.
Yeah, basically.
So sweet.
Yeah, I remember they did word clearing festivals at the ranch, and we loved it because we would get like, they're like, get all the books you're reading. So I would get like my romance novels. I was like 12 or 13. And then they realized that they're like, not the trashy romance novels.
I'm surprised.
But yeah.
How interesting. I didn't realize what year you were teaching. So that's so cool. She was there 2000, 2001 as well. And at Delphi.
It just amazes me that you were thrown out into the world with no education. You probably had to like get your own ID, like do all of these basic things, right? And then you're like on campus with us. Like I remember seeing you, and then you're now advocating and being like doing the word clearing in a more gentle way, right? Like so you had to grow up so quickly, as do a lot of us, but I'm just like so freaking proud of you, Katherine.
Oh, thanks. I'm proud of you guys. Like, you know, we're all making our own journey and we don't have to be controlled. It's like really awesome to be able to be like, oh, I can make my own choices. And like, and also, and be able to talk out and like not be, I mean, maybe we are a little bit, I mean, not gonna lie, I have nightmares sometimes, you know, where I'm like, oh no, the Sea Org's outside my door. It's way less though. I think writing out my book really took away a lot of the trauma, but every once in a while, especially if I do an interview, because my brain now is like, it's in there, then I'll dream about the Sea Org again. And I'm like, when you wake up, I'm like, thank goodness I'm on the Sea Org.
Right.
That would be the worst.
Thank goodness that's not my life anymore, and I don't have to be quiet about it, and I don't have to pretend that I liked it, and I don't have to pretend that it was good or helpful. That's kind of a hard part for the people
it can be challenging when it's a complex post-traumatic stress disorder where it wasn't one singular episode. It was your entire childhood. So it's so much to look at, process, feel the emotions that you never felt during that time. I'm sure you went through so much writing this book. Like it's going to remind us all of so many things, and like that'll be helpful in our journey too. And then our viewers will be able to read it along with us, and we'll be able to ask you questions. I'm going to take notes and like highlight things I want to ask you about on the chat. And like I just think this is the best thing ever, and honestly we're so excited to like get to know you in a new light and in a new way, and
as like, you being you and picking who you are and letting us know, and not somebody else telling you what to think or who to be or how to be.
For
that's beautiful.
And I relate really cool. to like you being like, what else? Like they asked me to do this book basically by taking my family. Like I suffered for years, like with disconnection, and was still like the fear is so deep. I was still just afraid. I didn't even know what was going to happen. I was just scared. And we don't have the skills to like, you know, we don't have $1 million. We can't hire a security guard. We don't have a master's degree because we went to USC like everybody else. Like, no, it's us hustling, trying to keep our mental health straight and like not fall apart. So
for sure. And I actually was only like a few weeks before I released my book. I was going to do it under a full pseudonym And then my friend Clarissa that I actually mentioned earlier called me, and she was like, I know you really were thinking of doing it. And she's like, it's totally up to you. But there's something about being fully out there where you break that final chain. I was like, oh, what a good line. It's breaking the chain of control, because there was fear. I was like, even though they would find out who I was in a second, probably, I was still scared. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I got to just own it. And I wasn't going to do interviews. I wasn't going to show my face. And then I was like, I think you're right, Clarissa. Like, I thought on it for a day or two, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I did it under my maiden name because that's the name I had in the church. So it's like, everybody knows like who I am. It's not like that person wasn't a cadet. It's like, oh, I know who that is.
Yep.
And it is freeing. It's like, I actually feel really good. I'm like, this is like really healthy in a lot of ways. I still sometimes get scared. And then I'm like, I remember you guys are there. Like my best friend's doing a podcast, like so many podcasts. Awesome. I'm like, it's okay. There's a community, and it's like, we're just speaking our truths. And it's just like moments of like fear. And I'm just like, did I go too far? Did I say too much? And it's because of what we grew up with, where we're told not to say anything bad anything negative. And I'm like, I love my parents regardless of their disconnection to me. So then I'm like, but I remind myself, they're never going to watch this. I hope they'll read my book, though. My book would be better for them to read, I think, rather than me just, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like reading the book is more of like, they could see from my child perspective.
Yeah. And we love that you are not, you're using synonyms for other people. But it's also, I totally get, it drives you nuts when like they still have any inkling of power over you. Like, I was living my life fully out, disconnected for years, but they're still having power of us. So the fact that you took your name, you're stepping into it, it's just like so cool. And you're respecting anybody else who hasn't told their story yet. They're under other names, but they're getting your experience. And it's just like, so lovely.
We love it. We love it. Like, here's to the degraded daughters and the bad cadets of the world. Like, welcome. It is our time to shine. It's our time to tell our stories and to own them. And the world needs storytellers. And if you're at a place that you want to speak, there's so many people that are willing to listen, which is a beautiful thing. Because I never knew this world existed, like this outside world of people that like felt the same way growing up or after they got to be an adult. So it is very, very nice to know that there's so many people with such shared experiences. Like you said, we grew up differently, but also very similarly, right? Very similar things that our parents did, that they were told to do, that, we couldn't really make sense of. And hearing other people's experience is so, so helpful and validating for us. So I applaud you. I applaud you for writing a book. That's amazing. I can't wait to like read it. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I was so excited about this. I was like, it was like right when we started this, I was like, oh, I want to read this book. And then I sent her like one of your interviews, and I was like, this looks so cool. Look how good she is. She speaks so articulately. She's so like well composed. She's got her shit together. Look at this. I love seeing this. And then she was like looking at, she's like, Catherine, that name sounds so familiar. And she's like, then she texted me back. She's like, I think I know her. And I was like, really?
No, I texted your last name, and she was like, that's the one. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Oh my gosh. This is exciting. The bad cadet.
Yeah, and I was like, look at the name. I love it. I love.
And my husband made the cover. So perfect.
Amazing. He did great. Good job, husband. That's good.
I know. Because I was like I had hired a freelancer, and they were just making it this like very dark, dramatic, like volcanoes, like your guys' background, which is totally cool. It's perfect.
But that's not what you wanted.
Yeah. But mine was like, I'm a little girl just trucking along. Like, so it's very lighthearted. But because it's so light, it's dark. Like,
exactly.
Feels it for themselves, and I'm just, my personality is just super like feisty and like spunky. So like my mother-in-law is like, is that actually you? Like the red and pink, like, is that my actual like? Because I'm like, it could be kind of curvy.
It totally does look like you. How cute.
So
how are we looking for July 1st for a book club? Does that sound good with you, ladies? It's about a month away.
I'm excited. I'm so
Okay.
excited. Yes.
So excited. That will be really fun. I hope that we get a few readers. It'll be fun to talk about.
We will.
So
Everyone will
please
love to ask you
read this
questions.
amazing
Yes.
book so we can all have a little chit chat and we can have questions from viewers that they can ask Katherine, which will be so fun. So much fun.
Yeah. So should they just DM you guys with questions or DM me, or
Well,
how do you guys
I
want
was
to do it?
thinking that, well, people could,
Or they could do the live too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they could do the live chat, or if they have really specific questions, they can definitely email it to us, degradeddaughtersunite@gmail.com, after you've read the book. And we can go through and highlight certain ones that we think are important if we get a lot, because they're all important and everyone's going to have so many questions for you. And then we could also do a live. Hopefully in a month from now, our channel will be monetized and people will be able to like send super chats, and then we can ask you the questions for that they're really, really interested in hearing. So like, it'll just be so fun.
It'll be so fun. Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
so fun.
Awesome.
to have the author here with us. And I've heard just a little bit about what's in the book, and honestly, it's pretty tragic. So it's a subject that, you know, we're talking about lightheartedly because we're all like
used to it,
and we're we're trying to keep it light. But I know that there's a lot of dark stuff, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of victim shaming, a lot of blaming. And so for you to be standing up today here with us, we're just like, we feel so honored that you came to talk with us, and we're
so
by your
proud of
side.
you.
Yeah, we're by your
Thanks,
side,
guys.
and like there's a whole community, and we're all gonna do this.
Yeah, for sure. And if anyone wants to follow me on like at the Bag Cadet on Instagram or on Twitter, the Bag Cadet on Twitter, I do respond to comments and stuff. So yeah.
Let me see that
all you
book
guys'
and
support.
stuff too.
Let me
I
see
love
that
the
book
pictures.
one more time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There it is, guys.
Very cute.
Yeah, I love it. And it like turned out like the perfect length. I'm just like so happy with how it all turned out. I'm like,
Looks
oh my gosh, I
amazing.
did it. I wrote
It
a
looks
book.
like a really easy read. Yeah.
It is. It actually, a few of my
fun,
friends
too.
get through it like that.
Yeah.
So it's a light, like if you like coming of age memoirs, like Educated by Tara Westover, or like other of those type of books,
that was so
you
good.
will love. I hope you'll love my book. That's so egotistical, but I'm like,
You will love
I
it.
think you'll enjoy it.
You guys are gonna love it, or else.
Enjoy it or else.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you'll like it. I'll say that then. I had one person didn't like the ending because it ended too soon. I'm like, I'm sorry, there's a second book. So that's
there's
my
the
only
Odyssey part
complaint
two.
I had.
Yeah.
And what
that's
age do you
exciting.
go to? Because was it to the point of where we were like roaming alcoholics in Hollywood?
That will be the second book, and there'll be some stories there. Oh boy, that's when you get the
we can brainstorm. There's a lot of like memory loss due to chronic binge drinking from that era, just to survive our childhoods. So I'm like, wait, I think I used to party with that person. And then someone will like tell a story. I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely happened. And that was crazy. And I didn't even remember it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, those times. Yeah. So my book goes till I'm 16 when I leave the Sea Org.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What a
Nice.
So yeah, I am still a Scientologist at the end. Spoiler alert. But I'm not now.
But not now.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we're
in
gonna
my
have
about
to do
the
part
author,
two.
I'm like very clear. Like I'm writing a second book about leaving the mind control of Scientology.
I
That's a
love
whole
that.
nother story.
That'll be
So
so
the first
helpful.
one is just how do I get out of the Sea Org
Right.
and like the misadventures along the way. It's really written as a story. It's not written like a documentary style. So it's very like scenes and dialogues. And my friends are all in it. And So yeah, we'll see what people think. I hope you guys enjoy it, but feel free to ask any questions. I really tried to make it really reader friendly. So it's not too much Scientology's in it.
Yeah.
It's in there, but I try to explain it with words around it. You don't need a glossary, but you could certainly do a deep dive on Google and have fun with that.
Wow. Yes. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. Like sometimes if you're,
thing.
I like when I read a book and I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that or about that history. And I'll go on the internet and do my own little research and then jump back on the story.
Yeah, and somebody, our moderator, our awesome moderator Goldie in the live chats, she always links the tech dictionary. So there's a PDF. It's fascinating because I used to read it like just for fun. So I like to have it up because I'm like, for fun. I like to have it up because reminds me that
helpful.
like this wasn't just in my memory. This is like word
Yeah.
for word what a
Mhm.
degraded being is. So like
Yeah, for sure. Oh
You
my
know.
gosh. It's the tech dictionary is just its own thing. It's so
it's
funny.
wild.
That
Yeah.
I
Loaded.
put in like words like HENR, which is human emotion and reaction, and like
Mhm.
Yeah.
knock off the HENR, stop the
Yeah.
backflash, or get your
Yeah.
ethics in. All of that's
Yeah.
in there. I'm like, but whenever somebody says something else, like don't cut my comm or whatever, like I'm like, dang it, I forgot that one. Or
Yeah.
it's like it has to
It's a
happen
hot
naturally.
trigger.
And
It's a hot
whenever-
trigger. I hate
yeah.
being told not to cut someone's comm. That was told so long for so many.
Yeah.
I'm like, I cannot ever hear that phrase again or knock it off.
Oh my
But
gosh.
seriously,
Mine
don't
was-
cut my
Knock it
comm.
off. Yeah.
Oh my God, for real. I just cut your comm. I don't mean
No, but in the real
no,
world,
but because we're
sometimes you have
talking
to cut
naturally.
comm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
natural to be like talking over each other sometimes.
Yeah.
Do
But
you
mine
have a
was
hard
don't be out
time-
of valence. They're like, don't
Oh
be
my
out of
gosh,
valence.
yes.
Because I
Yeah.
was like always loud and like
Yeah.
rambunctious. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
but what am I then? If I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about yeah, because we were discussing this yesterday too, like the word beingness, basically valence. It's all made up. It's all Scientology.
Yeah.
It keeps you in a fake
Mhm.
fake place. But dang, there was something I wanted to ask you so hard if you had a hard
Sorry.
time with. No, it's okay. You
Well,
just
I had
The Dev Tea queens are just
we
over
have
here
so
laughing
much,
and
I just
joking
think
and
we have so much
degrading.
to talk about. It's like
Yeah.
incredible because you know, and also I wanted to tell both of you that women who I know who are and fathers, mothers and fathers who were raised the way that we were raised, all of them that I know have gone out of their way to be the most loving, there for their children, caring, and it has worked in a way that you guys are really showing up and not, and like the trauma stops here, right? And you've really gone
Yeah.
out of your way to like
Do it
like you
differently.
just said, you love being a mom. I know Alicia does too. It's like a
Yeah.
joy in your life, and that's
Yeah.
how it really should always be.
Yeah.
So I'm just proud of you,
Top
ladies.
priority.
Yeah, you're showing
it's
such
so cool to
unconditional
be able
love.
Exactly. To have that and to nurture it has been like, I
Yeah.
never take it for granted. I care
Right.
about my kids so much.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, that's so special to be able to do this and be able to be a mom. And like, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I left the CR.
Yes, you get to see the other side of it. Like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, we're going to do this a lot differently. And we're going to look at the mistakes made and make our own new mistakes, as every parent does. But
Yeah, of course.
You
We're not
know,
perfect,
but
but
no,
we're
we're
just
not
trying
perfect.
our best.
yeah, but we just know that we're not going to give our same trauma and keep passing that down, hopefully, you know,
Yeah, for
love
sure.
and
You can tell they
safety
feel
is
it.
so
You
good.
could tell. I mean, when kids are loved
Yeah.
and they feel like they can talk to their parents, it's
I
a
know.
very different experience than we had. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's beautiful to watch.
So cheers to all the parents that are out there parenting so differently than what you were given and shown, because it is hard work and it is important work. So Katherine, we applaud you. Thank you so much for
you,
taking the
guys.
time. We have had so much fun and I'm so happy we got an interview with you. I loved your
Yay.
previous interviews and I was bragging to Vanessa. I was like, look at her. I love this.
Oh my gosh, you're so
She's
nice.
so
Thank
good
you
and
guys.
articulate and normal and like sane and like, you know, it's good. It's good to see some of us grow up and change and like live differently and in a good way, like own your own life.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, for sure. And same for you guys. And I really, once I saw it was you guys, I was like, oh, we got to chat. And it was so funny that Vanessa and I immediately started DMing each other at the same time. Like,
Exact
so
same
random.
time. It wasn't like minutes apart. We both sent each other a message. And she was like, I was just composing a message. And she sent it. And I was like, all right, there's something in the air. We got to get this going, because
So
the more
sure.
people you know who are doing it, the more you're like, oh, well, I kind of want to talk about something too. Like I had a perspective about that. So let's just get it out there.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're
Thanks
welcome.
for spending some time with us.
We're
This
so
was so fun.
excited. We're so excited to have you back.
We hope everybody enjoys the book. We know they will. They'll enjoy it. They have to.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Book club rules, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.